Captain Dean Show.
So, do you want a Mark Hoppus bass episode? Is that what you want? Do you want me to talk about my love and fascination with Mark Hoppus from Blink-182? Is that what you want me to do right now? Is that what you want? Is that why you're tuning in to all of these bass episodes, to see when is he going to talk about Mark Hoppus basses that he's made? Well, right now, welcome to the Captain Dean Show. I'm your host, Captain Dean, and today is the day. I have had many people ask me, when are you going to talk about the Mark Hoppus basses that you've made? I have now made 5. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about Josie. This was my first attempt at doing a Mark Hoppus influenced bass. It is a Squire jazz bass, and pretty cool story about it. I ordered it when, well, I guess it was like Fender had one of their after Christmas sales, or it was some sort of holiday blowout kind of thing. And they were selling these basses, I think, for only $200. And the thing was, it was that package deal. It was the bass, a little practice amp, the strap, and, all the stuff that comes with it. And I was like, that's a pretty good deal for something that's brand new. And so after a while of being not only a Blink-182 fan, which I've been since probably 1996, 7 is when the first time I heard them. Of course, everything exploded between Dude Ranch and Enema of the State. But I was really getting into checking out things that were popping up all over the internet, especially a man named Alan Corona. I started seeing Alan's work, and I didn't even know anything about him. I didn't even see that. I think people were sharing it, or maybe it was just that hashtag Blink-182, hashtag Mark Hoppus thing. And just by being a fan of all of that, especially on Instagram, I started to see these pictures, and Alan would build a Mark Hoppus bass, and he would put it in the nice green grass, and he would take a nice little square photo for Instagram. And that was my introduction to Alan Corona. He was making replica basses of Mark Hoppus's stuff. And of course, this would have been around the time of California and everything, the resurgence of Blink-182, thanks to Matt Skiba coming in. And I was a huge fan. I didn't give a shit what anybody said. I was happy that they were back and with Matt Skiba. I thought it was great. But anyway, Alan Corona had a lot to do with the major impact on me wanting to have one. So of course, in the beginning, I'm like, well, if I get a cheap bass, I could make a Scully, I could make a Lettuce, I could probably, do some version of some of the stuff that he had once he started doing this configuration. Of course, I loved everything he had. There was that kind of mustard yellow one from the Plus 44 days. There was the white bass with the black pick guard. There were variations of this particular shape and model with the octopus on it. So I started messing around with the idea of, I'm going to get something and then I'm going to make my own. So I got the bass for really cheap because of that sale that they were having. I ordered the pick guard off eBay. This is a WD pick guard in the shape of the reverse pickup style, Mark Hoppus style. And this is like a milk white. If I didn't have shielding tape underneath this, you would actually see the body a little bit. So I ended up doing shield tape on the whole pick guard just so that it would be a solid white. I didn't realize what I had gotten I think, I was just getting new into this world. So I didn't realize that was that. So once I put it on here, I was like, oh, you can actually see through it. So it was kind of cool, but it didn't work with what I'd done to the body. And we'll get to that. So of course I went with this shape because I like the reverse pickup style of what Mark did. There's a video of him during the California tour where someone interviewed him about his gear, and he talked about why he did the inverted pickup thing. And it was because if this pickup is further back to the bridge, you get a lot more fatter tone out of the E string. And if this was moved up toward the neck, you get a lot more of the poppier sound on the higher strings notes that you play. And I was just like, that's brilliant. I love that. Now, it's nothing new. He didn't reinvent the wheel or anything. Spectre basses were like this back in the 80s. So it's nothing new. It was just something new to a lot of us from the pop punk world that didn't really follow what like hard rock and metal basses were playing on Spectre basses. But, the gear nerds noticed that kind of stuff. But Mark had a good point, and of course I think he was the first one to kind of bring it in as a Fender made thing. So I wanted to go with that look. So this body was originally a sunburst bass. I'm not a big fan of sunburst basses or guitars. They look good. I'm just not a fan. It doesn't fit me, and I feel like it fits better with like Southern rock and country music. I mean, if you're going to put a guitar being held by somebody, sometimes it fits the style of music they're playing. And I know it sounds really stupid, but that's just me. I like the look of a sunburst, but it's never something I've ever wanted to own and play on stage. So that was another reason why I got it. If I had got like a plain color, it would have been more difficult for me to sand it down and mess it up because it would have been so pretty. But the other thing about getting the sunburst bass is that I knew I was going to have to fill in this jazz bass pickup cavity. So I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a couple of videos on YouTube where there's a guy in, I believe, England who has a video of him buying a cheap jazz bass and building his own version of Lettuce. And what he did versus what most people I see do, where they cut out a piece of wood and shove it in there and use wood putty, he filled the entire cavity with clear epoxy. And I thought, oh, that's great. That's a great idea. That's how you should do it. So I went a little bit further when I cut out this area to make these pickups fit. I chiseled out everything. I had a lot of leftover wood and sawdust and everything from doing all of this work here. So I filled this with epoxy, and then I would sprinkle a little bit of sawdust and wood chips and stuff like that in with it, so that when it got to the top of the surface, it just barely went up above the surface of the bass, so that sanding became very easy. It didn't take me long to have to sand all that down. And I also knew that I was going to put the octopus sticker on it, and that would kind of help cover up the area. So if you're really close to it, you can see it, but from far away, you can't tell at all. Nobody would really know or care anyway. So that is what I did to fill that. And I strongly suggest anyone out there wanting to build one of these for cheap, just look up on YouTube, Mark Hoppus bass build. Between Alan Corona and some of these other guys, everything you need is out there. So it's not hard to come across it. So, the paint. I really struggled with what color I was going to do this. Of course, at first I thought, am I going to make a Scully? Am I going to make Lettuce? Am I going to make white base with a black pick guard? What am I going to do? So finally I had the vision of, I don't want to do what other guys are doing where they're actually making replicas. I didn't want a replica. I wanted an influence base. So I went with the shell pink color. because first of all, it's pink and it goes well with the Mark Hoppus thing. I know that the original Mark Hoppus bases, signature lines that came out in the early 2000s, they did do a shell pink color. I don't know if it's as popular or if it was well sought after, but I know they made it. It didn't really have anything to do with that. It was more about what color do I not have? What color would look best for me and what I'm going for? So I actually found this at a local craft store, and it was called Ballet Slipper Pink, which was even better. So I sanded down everything after the pickup cavity was done, after all of this was chiseled out and ready to fit these pickups. I sanded the body down really smooth, but I left the original sunburst kind of finish in some places. You can see where that's like the body of the base, but this is the actual sunburst, body that was, the paint job that was originally on it. So when I started messing with it, I noticed that that was going to turn out to be pretty cool. So what went wrong is the first time I painted this, it actually crackled and peeled up. I think it was a weather thing. I was outside painting, and when you live in Kentucky, it's either hot or cold, and it's always humid. So you really have to be careful around here when you're painting something, special, that you want it to look really good, because the weather can really jack this stuff up quick. So the first attempt at painting this went very bad. I had to sand it off, scrape it off, and get it back down, which in a way was kind of good because it helped me scuff it up a little bit more. So this was the second attempt at painting it Ballet Slipper Pink, and this was the result. Once the paint was on, I just started nicking away using, I learned this a lot also from Alan Corona. You use a razor blade to do a lot of the fine scraping. I would take little corner pieces of like rough sandpaper, and I would just kind of do little tearaway things where you can use a knife or a razor blade to kind of get deep into the paint, but then use sandpaper to kind of smooth it off. This is kind of like the best version of relicking that I had done at that point. I haven't really done a lot of relicking. Most stuff I'd ever done was really purely accident, and if it looked cool, I just kind of left it alone. So this was my attempt at relicking. The cool thing about the sticker was, if you see the original, I'm going to draw a blank on the name. If you see the original relic base that he had, he put a sticker of Mickey Mouse on it. It was that sticker. In the process of putting this base together, around this time, I had gone to Disney World. And every single building that had a gift shop or a register, I asked every single cast member, do you have any stickers? Do you have any Mickey Mouse stickers? And I got about 100 of these things. And it was just pure luck that most of them were available at most stores I went to. And I gotta tell you, the best person that did this for me was a super nice cast member. And we were at Epcot, and we were in the Paris area. We were in the France area. And she gave me like a giant roll of these things, easily like 25 of these things. So I ended up getting a lot of these, and all I needed was one, but I got several of them. And so I had in mind to do that kind of in honor of Relic, because the base is relict. The octopus, of course, coming from hi, my name is Mark. This was the first base I also did to get some sort of Mark Hoppus influenced sticker on it. So by combining those two, it's kind of like a nod to the, neighborhoods era, California era, and adding that just kind of added a little bit of, cool flair for me. So that was cool, and that is the outcome of what I ended up getting out of the paint job I did. I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, when I came across the yellow button, and then the Skankin' Rabbit button came from the reunion tour when they were in Nashville, Tennessee. And God, I was so happy to get that. So what I've done on the back is I've basically, anytime I get my hands on a Blink-182 sticker, I'll smack it on here. And at one point I'll get this filled up, but for now this is everything I've had so far. This also came from that concert in Nashville, and then a lot of these just came from my local record stores that had them in stock. But I went with calling this bass Josie, also a nod to, of course, Blink-182, nod to Mark Hoppus, and one of my favorite songs that he sang. So there you go. This is a 2020 Squier Affinity jazz bass that has been turned into my first Mark Hoppus custom job. I left the jazz bass neck on it. To me, it's very comfortable, and of course it's rosewood ebony, so therefore it fits in with the vibe. The relicing work was very simple. It was pretty much just a razor blade, a X-Acto knife, and some sandpaper. And you can still see the original sunburst look in certain places all around the body here, which I thought gave it a pretty cool little extra flair to it instead of being a plain color. So there is Josie, my first attempt at making a Mark Hoppus inspired bass. And eventually I will get to making videos on the other ones that I've done. Big shout out to people like Alan Corona, Gear 182, 182 News with Poppin' Curbs, and so many other people that I've been following on Instagram for so many years now that share my love and passion for Blink-182, their equipment, their music, and the influence it has on us. And I really appreciate all of you guys. And stay tuned for more videos.